दोस्ता कियां परेशान है
जरा कर है ना सारा सौदा मुक्या वा मुल्का विच पैसे भेजने
हूं नहीं अमार फूड वाले की फोन खड़का ते फ्री लोकल डिलीवरी कार मंगवा
आला ता उत्थे कै स्पेशल आ
उन्हां की लबाई हाइजीन च ग्रेड 5 चीजें चंगियां म्यारी ते सस्तियां ते नाले ऑफरां ही ऑफरां
और क्या
ताजा गोश्त ताजी सब्जियां ते फ्रूट आटा चावल दालां मसाले ते जूस सारे बिल जमा करने गैस ते इलेक्ट्रिक ने टॉप अप भी करने पाकिस्तान पैसे बिल्कुल फ्री भेजने मतलब के एक चिड़ी ने दूध छड़ी ते हर शै लबनी
उठ जने ने आप उतरा
Amar Food Store and Halal Meat 613B Lincoln Road Peterborough telephone 01733 687374.
Did you thank Allah for your eyesight? A blind boy sat on the steps of a building with a hat by his feet. He held up a sign which said, "I am blind, please help." There were only a few coins in the hat. A man was walking by. He took a few coins from his pocket and dropped them into the hat. He then took the sign, turned it around, and wrote some words. He put the sign back so that everyone who walked by would see the new words. Soon the hat began to fill up. A lot more people were giving money to the blind boy. That afternoon the man who had changed the sign came to see how things were. The boy recognized his footsteps and asked, "Were you the one who changed my sign this morning?" "What did you write?" The man said, "I only wrote the truth. I said what you said, but in a different way." What he had written was, "Today is a beautiful day and I cannot see it." Of course, both signs told people that they was blind. But the first sign simply said that they was blind. The second sign told people they were so lucky that they were not blind.
Broadcasting 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. This is Salaam Radio.
Assalamu alaikum, and this is your very own Doctor Shabina Asad Qayyum for the Body, Health and Mind Show on Salaam Radio 106.2 FM. What a delight it is to be back on a crispy yet moderate evening here in Peterborough. It's a delight to be back just to bring you the latest in the way of the world of health. And it's a really special show for me today. There are a couple of reasons behind that, and I'll share them with you shortly. But in the meantime, if you're tuning in, you're more than welcome to text and WhatsApp us on 07745 278 978, or you can ring us on the studio telephone number 01733 602 133. We are, in fact, also live on Facebook, live on YouTube, live on Twitter, so there are plenty of portals for you to listen to the Body, Health and Mind Show. As for me, I'm Doctor Shabina. I'm a local GP in a practice in the centre of Peterborough. I have a very large population base. I love what I do as a GP, and actually it gives me the faith to wake up in the morning and do something good. So how have you all been this week? I understand that it's half term. I'm very hopeful that plenty of children will be tuning in as well, because I tell you, today's show is different. Now, you may have all noticed that over the last couple of months, I've always had a specialist or somebody who'd want to deliver a particular topic in their area of expertise. And when I first started off in Salaam Radio, I would talk about things, especially during the month of Ramadan. I would talk about things with a view to educate people. And I slowly was able to connect with people all over the UK on various specialities so that they could give you an insight. And these shows are rather very easy language orientated so that you can understand what is being said. And also more for giving you knowledge so that you've got a background of what is being said. And I know that many of you will be out and about in Peterborough. You may have your radios on. And I'm really hoping that today you're going to benefit from this show, because it's something that I really do take seriously. Now, it's about the topic of mental health. And I know that I've done so many shows about this, but I really wanted to connect with my audience today and my listenership. And I thought about something that I'm seeing an awful lot of in all different age groups, and that is anxiety. we all suffer from anxiety, and having anxiety to some extent is quite normal. So I think it's really important to talk a little bit about it. Why does it happen? What is it? In order to give you an understanding, if you do suffer from anxiety, which may be any level, by the way, it could be a mild form of anxiety, it could be a major form of anxiety, is what is your body and what is your mind doing to you when you go through a process of anxiety? So I think that it's important that we lay that foundation down first of all, and then talk about how we can cope with it. So that's one of the things that I want to do with you. And something that's known as mindfulness, which is an exercise to help calm ourselves. It's a self-help technique, and it's known to help with anxiety situations. And mindfulness, I personally need to do a lot of. And I won't say that I suffer from a lot of anxiety. However, I have experienced it in the past couple of weeks, and it's made me feel very low in myself. And I think the reason I can be justified in talking about this topic is if I can present to you the facts that we are all human, and that to admit to something happening to you is human and it is normal, and to normalize these things, especially within our diverse communities, is only and should be perceived to be positive. So if we can start off with that base at being totally honest with ourselves as to how we feel and to acknowledge our feelings, I think that's a good place to start. And regards to myself, I will put my hands up and say that yes, I've had an episode of anxiety in the last couple of weeks. I've managed to deal with it with an awful lot of support from family and friends, which is invaluable. However, if you don't have that sort of circle that you wish that you would, all hope isn't to be lost. And that is what this show is about today. So let's start off with a good, honest foundation of our feelings, acknowledge ourselves and respect ourselves enough to appreciate that our body is behaving differently, and educate ourselves on how to deal with that difference. And it's wonderful that I can see that some of you have tuned in. Thank you very much. So, anxiety. What is it? Everybody we know has a level of feeling anxious from time to time. And I think it's also important, before I move on with this, that this session, if you're listening in your cars, at home, if you're listening from your telephone, if you're looking at the show on Facebook, that we speak in a calm manner and communication takes place in a calm manner so that you're able to absorb it. So I would really like you to just sit back, relax, and absorb all the information that's given to you. And in the later part of the show, we're also going to do a mindfulness session, and I want you all to take part in it. And if you're not driving, but you're sat in a car somewhere, you can also do this. You might be washing the dishes and listening to the radio. You can also do this, and it's a way of relaxing. So I'd really be appreciative if you could join in, because this mindfulness session I think is going to be very good. It's going to be very good for all of us, and I probably won't be able to take part in it because I'll have my eyes open and I'll be sort of instructing as to what to do, which is always okay. So we talk about anxiety and we talk about what it is. And anxiety is manifest in most people sometimes, and in other people it's manifest a lot more frequently. So a level of being anxious is normal. The reason being, if we weren't to react to certain situations which incite a level of fear or apprehension, then we're not really reacting normally. We label, I don't like to use the word label, but we say that anxiety can become abnormal if it actually starts to interfere in your day-to-day activities. And it's a symptom of various disorders. So there are a lot of anxiety disorders, and we'll talk a little bit about them. And it can be treated, really. It can be treated, and everybody has their different time span of anxiety being treated. And the professional treatments to treat it are talking therapies and in some cases medication. So part of our talking about anxiety will involve talking normally about when medication can be implemented. So when we're anxious, it's natural for us to feel fearful and tense. And in addition, we might also have one or more unpleasant physical symptoms alongside that. So example, when you're feeling fearful, when you're feeling tense, you might have a fast heart rate, you might have a sensation of palpitations, a thumping heart, which they call, a feeling of being sick or nauseated. You might shake, you might sweat, you might have a dry mouth. You might even have some chest pain. Some people also complain of having headaches, and some also complain of fast breathing. So you might have all of these symptoms. You might have a few out of the list that I've just described. And the reason why these physical symptoms take place are they're caused by the brain, because the brain goes into overdrive and it starts sending lots of messages down to the nerves, to various parts of the body when you're anxious. And the nerve messages tend to make your heart, your lungs, and other parts of the body work faster because they're trying to keep up with this certain overdrive that your brain has gone into. In addition, you start then releasing stress hormones. Now, one of the stress hormones is known as adrenaline, which is why you say your adrenaline's pumping. And stress could be physical, the physical exertion you have during exercise as well, but adrenaline is known to become increased in anxiety situations. And it's secreted into the bloodstream when you're anxious. And adrenaline then has an effect on your heart, on your muscles, and in other parts of the body that they can then cause the symptoms. Now, anxiety, a level of anxiety, is normal, like I said, in stressful situations. And it can even be helpful. I'm going to explain how that is. So, you'll feel anxious, for example, when you're threatened by an aggressive person, or even before an important race or an important event or before an exam. And this burst of adrenaline and nerve pulses that are then released in response to the stressful situation, they encourage something that we often call in medical terminology a flight or fight response. And when it's abnormal, it means that it's interfering with your daily life. So you're not able to get round to what you needed to do. You're not able to get round to cook a meal for the children. You're not able to get round and do the school run because you are anxious of leaving the house. This is when we state that anxiety has now become abnormal. It's a sort of an abnormal reaction, and that's when we need to find help to address these symptoms. So there are various disorders associated with anxiety, and 1 in 20 people can have an anxiety disorder at any one time in their life. And if you look at the population of the UK, that to me seems an awful lot of people. Now, there are some conditions as well, medical conditions, where anxiety is the main symptom, and some people have features of more than one type of disorders. So, for example, if you've got a problem with regards to your thyroid, part of your thyroid gland is in overdrive, and anxiety can be a symptom of that. So there are some medical conditions whereby anxiety can be more manifest too. When we talk about anxiety and its treatment, first of all, it is so important to understand what your symptoms are. It's important to acknowledge and not deny that you have symptoms. It is important to process these thoughts and symptoms, and talking to someone like a friend or a family member or even a health professional if you feel that you have nobody to talk to may help in particular. And some people actually worry that the physical symptoms of anxiety, such as a thumping heart, are due to a physical illness. This can actually make your anxiety worse because you then turn into having something known as health anxiety in some people. However, if you understand that after investigations and tests and the fact that you have seen somebody, anxiety can be cured, and it is always good to seek help for it. Now, there are lots of things that we can do in terms of treatment. Now, counselling is one. Counselling isn't for everybody, though. I get lots of patients who often say to me that, well, actually, sometimes in some cases, in the middle, cut me off in a sentence, say, no, that's not for me. And I respect that. The reason why I respect that is because an individual may be suffering from a social anxiety disorder, which means that they can't go out and sit and talk in front of somebody who they don't know. And I say to all of my patients that I think that it's commendable that an individual can go even to a health professional or their doctor and talk about how they're feeling, because it's not easy. It's not easy to divulge. It's not easy to try and put into words how an individual is feeling. And the other thing I'd like to add at this stage is that there will always be a difference between anxiety and depression. And let me try and establish the difference now. Anxiety is, just as I've put to you, feeling panic, feeling fear, feeling anxious about a situation. Whereas depression is different. Now, depression is more feeling hopeless, down, low in mood for 2 weeks or more, and not being able to see the optimism in anything. That's the difference. It's a low functioning type of disorder, whereas anxiety is more of a high functioning type, where the body is actually physically in overdrive. Depression is quite different to that. So it's important that you appreciate the difference between the two, because their treatments can be quite different as well. Now, when we talk about counselling can focus on problem-solving skills. And the other thing I'm going to do towards the end of the show is to make you a little bit more aware of services that are available here within Cambridgeshire and Peterborough. And I will be giving you information on services available for all ages. I think it's so important. And unless we have that information out there, it's sometimes difficult to access because it's not very well advertised. And you can get this information from your local GP surgery, but I've been doing a lot of reading on this, and there were some services that I wasn't aware of. So I'd be really grateful if you could listen in, and if you feel that you can benefit from this programme, we can definitely talk about some of the services that are available in Peterborough and Cambridgeshire. And that's the objective of this show, that towards the end there is an end point that you can actually go to and seek help. So I will be giving you more information about those services towards the end of the show. Then we have anxiety management courses. So we're going back to the treatments. We have anxiety management courses, and these may be an option for some of the conditions. So counselling is really good if you've got generalised anxiety disorder. And if you go to your GP, they can usually perform something known as a generalised anxiety disorder score, or a GAD score, we like to call it, to see how anxious you are and how interfering the anxiety is in your daily activities of life. And with regards to that, it can be suitable for some people, but not all, which is okay. All right. So don't think that anything that I'm advising you is set in stone. No, everybody is different. And it's important to emphasize that you don't have to go down a particular pathway if you aren't comfortable with it. So learn to, again, the messages are out there, learn to respect yourself and your personal space first. And that is the first step towards dealing with your anxiety and also acknowledging what is right for you. Then we have sort of anxiety management courses as well. Yes, you can do anxiety management courses, and they're an option for some condition. If there are courses available locally in the area, the courses might include learning how to relax. There could be some problem-solving skills in this and coping strategies, and obviously group support that we've actually spoken about. Now, something that I'm going to talk to you a little bit about is something known as CBT. And it's an abbreviation for cognitive behavioural therapy. And I want to talk about it because not many people know what cognitive behavioural therapy is. And there are different forms of cognitive behavioural therapy, but I think it's important that we talk about what it does and what it is. And if it's available in your area, it can work well for people who have long-standing anxiety disorders and phobias. So it's very good for phobias too. And it's a type of therapy that deals with your current thought process and behaviour and the current way in which you're thinking about things. And it aims to change that thought process, which may help you manage your anxiety. And cognitive means the way we perceive things, the way we understand things, the way we acknowledge things. And it helps us to understand our thoughts so we can think about things more positively. Because not to forget, when you are subjected to constant negative thoughts that are chipping away at your mind and your brain and those brain receptors, they do tend to become clogged up. And you lose that efficiency. And when you lose that efficiency, you also lose the ability to be able to bounce back as effectively as you may have in the earlier stages of your years. So this is something that's quite good for that. And behavioural therapy, which is this cognitive behavioural therapy, CBT, it helps us change any of our actions that may cause us harm or unhelpful. So, for example, staying at home all the time because you are anxious of something outside, again, a social phobia. And cognitive and behavioural therapies are often used together because how we behave often depends upon how we think about certain things or situation, when in reality, that might not be the case. So cognitive behavioural therapy facilitates a change in thought process. And I'm quite a big fan of cognitive behavioural therapy. And I'm also going to give you some resources on it too. So when we talk about cognitive therapy, so you've got CBT, cognitive behavioural therapy. Let's talk about cognitive therapy, then let's talk about behavioural therapy, shall we? So in cognitive therapy, our thoughts include our ideas in our mind. We have these mental images of things, we have these beliefs about things, and we have these attitudes towards certain situations. And these are called cognitive processes. If I could give an example, we might have this image or perception that, you know, a certain supermarket, for example, isn't the right place for you to go to simply because of the fact that there is always a certain cashier there who is horrible to you because she personally doesn't like you whenever you go there. And cognitively, your perception of that individual and that supermarket then disallows you from going there. So you've developed anxiety about that place and also a phobia for it as well. It's a very trivial example. However, I'm just trying to make you understand about cognitiveness and what does cognitive ability mean. And it helps you, this therapy can help you identify any harmful, unhelpful and false ideas or thoughts. So that it can change the way you think to avoid these ideas. So cognitive therapy helps your thought patterns to be more realistic and actually more helpful. And it could be put to you that, well, it might not be you. It could be that the certain cashier is having a bad day or has problems of their own. And then it helps you filter out the negative and make more room for the positive. And that's the basis of cognitive therapy. Then we talk about the more practical therapy, which is behavioral therapy. And this aims to change any behaviors that you're actually physically implementing that are harmful or are not helpful. For example, a common unhelpful behavior to avoid situations that can make you anxious. So some people with phobias, they avoid certain things, and that can affect your day-to-day life. Now, a type of behavioral therapy is actually exposure therapy, which may be used to help. And this involves you being gradually exposed to more and more of the feared situation. It's like heights, for example. And if you have a therapist or if you have online CBT, this shows you how to control your anxiety and how to cope when facing with that feared situation. How does it work? So, you can make sense of difficult situations by breaking them down into smaller parts. So your problems in CBT are broken into smaller parts, and it gives you a perspective of the situation you're in, what your thoughts are, the emotions that you are feeling behind those thoughts, your physical feelings associated with that, and also the actions that you're also feeling. And it's also based on the idea that these 5 areas that I've just spoken about, you know, your situations, your thoughts, your emotions, your physical feelings and actions. It's your thoughts about certain situation. It's acknowledging that they can make you feel physically and emotionally dysfunctional to an extent, as well as how you act in response. So it helps you to identify those specific problems that are unique to you and how you can then tackle them unique to that problem. How can you actually stop negative thought cycles? Now, there are helpful and unhelpful ways of reacting to a situation. So there are some thoughts, some feelings, some physical sensations and actions that can actually make you feel quite trapped in yourself. They can make you feel hopeless, lonely, depressed and tired. So the CBT aims to stop negative cycles such as these by breaking down the things that make you feel bad, make you feel anxious, and making your problems more manageable. And it can help you change your negative thought patterns and improve the way you feel. And in exposure therapy, it's very useful for phobias or OCD, those people that suffer from OCD. And you need to repeat an exercise exposing you regularly to the thing that you are afraid of. And after the first few times, you'll find your anxiety isn't that bad. So it doesn't last as long. And then you'll be more alleviated of your difficult situation. It is 10 seconds till we get to a break. So I'm hoping that you can join me after the break so that we can do a mindfulness session in calm. See you after the break.
You're listening to Salaam Radio, and it's now time for Isha Azan. This Azan is sponsored by UK Islamic Mission, serving humanity since 1962.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة
الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم وبارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد اللهم رب هذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة آت محمدا الوسيلة والفضيلة وابعثه مقاما محمودا الذي وعدته اللهم آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار اللهم بك نحيا وبك نموت وإليك المصير رضينا بالله ربا وبالإسلام دينا وبمحمد صلى الله عليه وسلم.
This Azan is sponsored by UK Islamic Mission, serving humanity since 1962.
Broadcasting 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. This is Salaam Radio.
Assalamu alaikum, I'm back. And I was just saying to Brother Amr, who actually, you know what? I always dedicate my show every week to someone. I'm going to dedicate my show this week to Brother Amr. We've been having such a lovely chat. And we've just been talking about how enjoyable this show is and how there's a sense of calm, and it's been great. It's an absolute pleasure to deliver the show in this manner. So yeah, my show this week is dedicated to Brother Amr, who works so hard behind the scenes. So great respect to my dear brother, and I all join you in making dua for Brother Amr and the team behind Salaam Radio, and for their families as well, with such selfless dedication that they exhibit all the time. So before the break, we were talking about cognitive behavioural therapy treatment. And I've got a comment. I've got people that are tuned in, and I have Mr. Munir Ahmed. Shabina, as always, a great show hosted by you. One question for you. I'm sure many others will want to know the answer to that. How does one differentiate between anxiety and depression? What are the main differences? So let's answer your question first. Munir, I think that's really important. Like I said, anxiety is a plethora of feelings or sensations that incite fear within you and cause a release of this chemical known as adrenaline, which gives you the flight or fright response. It also has physical symptoms manifested with it, so heart palpitations, for example, feeling sick or nauseated, sweating, breathing fast. And anxiety, in a nutshell, I would say, is a fear of certain thoughts or a situation. And it can also be combined with depression. It can come alongside depression, whereas depression is more of feeling down, hopeless, and a lack of self-worth over and not enjoying the things that you usually enjoy or take little interest or pleasure in over 2 weeks continuously, then you may have depression. It's wrong to say that you would definitely have depression if you have these consistently, because not to forget, there are certain life situations that may bring on depression, and one of them is bereavement or losing of a loved one. It is natural to feel down, depressed or hopeless or having little interest or pleasure in doing things when you lose a loved one. And that would be classified, depending upon how an individual is, as being depressed. Anxiety is different. There's a physical manifestation more to it. You have your palpitations, shortness of breath, feeling sweaty, sick, nauseous, having a fear inside you of something. So I hope that that's answered your question, and thank you very much for it. It was a sensible question. Now, we were talking a little bit about CBT, and after you have a few sessions of CBT, depending upon if you find a therapist in your area, you will find out whether it's actually the right treatment for you. And I usually say to my patients 3 or 4 treatments is really quite the norm for you to find out if this is a treatment for you and something that you can continue with. And if not, then you probably want to look at something else, and it might be medication if it's not quite enough for you, and we'll talk about that as well. So there are quite a few online cognitive behavioural therapy courses. One that I tend to advocate a lot to my patients is something known as Mood Gym. It was devised by the University of Brisbane. It is an online course. It's very good. I've usually advised it for students who go to university, who all of a sudden find that the big wide world is in front of them and they've got to deal with it. So cognitive behavioural therapy online, Mood Gym. Mood Juice is also something that is devised, as far as I can remember, from the Northumbria NHS sector. And again, it's good. It gives you coping strategies, how to change your thought process. I'd also like to say, because we're an Islamic channel, that it's, for some people, their spiritual association is very important. I know that it's very important to me, and I take a lot of peace in spirituality and my religion, and never abandon that aspect. I've seen lots of memes and quotes that say that whenever anybody's anxious, family members say, well, why don't you go and pray namaz? My take on that is, perhaps it could be worded differently. So there is a lot of benefit in spirituality, especially if your religion is important to you, especially in the Islamic faith. And I think that in Islam, we lay greater relevance to our faith and the significance of it, especially if we're not in a good place. And I think that it's important to emphasize the significance of that in an educative and balanced way. And it might not be the answer that an individual is looking for, but how about if one looked at it as a form of cleansing of the soul and taking part in a spiritual or religious activity for an hour a day, set aside by yourself, respecting yourself. And I think that that could be quite therapeutic and quite in terms of giving peace to your mind and relaxing as well. So always think about it as a way of relaxing. Now, we've spoken a little bit about that, and I'm going to come to medication in the end. But what I want us to do now is, if you're all tuned in, there are 7 of you that are tuning in, which is great, and I hope far many of you are tuned in on the other portals. And that is that I would like us all to engage in a mindfulness meditation session. So I'm going to ask you all to take part in this. And what I want you first to do is all take your seat. And whatever you're sitting on, it could be a chair, it could be a cushion, you could be sitting on the carpet, you could be sitting in your car parked up somewhere. But find a spot that gives you a stable, solid seat. And don't perch or don't hang back, okay? So something that gives you a stable, solid seat. Notice what your legs are doing. So if you're on a cushion on the floor, cross your legs comfortably in front of you. Hope you've all done that. And if you're on a chair, it's good if the bottoms of your feet are actually touching the floor, so that you have a connection with the bottom of your feet and the floor, touching all surfaces of the bottom of your feet. So first is sit on a solid surface, and second is make sure that your feet are touching the floor. Now what I want you to do next is to straighten, but not to stiffen your upper body. So straighten it gently, shoulders not pushed back, but gently, in a way that you know that your head is sitting comfortably on your shoulders. You don't have to slouch, just loosen up your shoulders and feel that release in the outer part of your shoulders. We know that the spine has a natural curvature. Let it be there, and let your head and shoulders comfortably rest on top of your neck, and feel that release. So loosen up. Then what I would like you to do is situate your upper arms parallel to your upper body. And how we're going to do that is that let your hands and your arms drop onto the tops of your legs. So it's if you're a person, for example, as you're sitting within the namaz, and you put both of your hands on the tops of your legs with your arms to the side of your body. And your hands were going to land in the right spot. So if you're watching online and you can see that your arms are on either side of your body and your hands, they're going to be at the right spot. They don't have to be, just relax them there. They don't have to be straight. Don't go too far forward because that's going to make you hunch. Just relax them on the side. And if you push them too far back, it's going to make you stiff. So you're actually tuning the strings of your body. So you're not going to leave it too tight and you're not going to leave it too loose. So try to do that for me. So what we've done is, I'm going to go through this again. You've taken your seat. You feel comfortable. Your legs and your feet should be on the floor and loose. Keep your head and your shoulders comfortable. Your head and your neck should sit comfortably on your shoulders. And your upper arms should be parallel to your upper body and your arms comfortably rested on your lap. Then I'd like you to drop your chin a little and let your gaze just fall gently downward. You might want to let your eyelids lower down. And if you feel the need, you want to lower them completely if that feels comfortable. It's not necessary to close your eyes, but simply allow what appears before your eyes be there. Don't focus on it. You just have to relax your eyes and lower your gaze and lower your chin a little bit. Now let's stay like that for a few moments. I'd like you to all relax and start focus on your breathing. And also feel any sensations that you have physically. So it could be for some people their heartbeat. It could be their breathing. It could be their sounds around you. And actually, if there are other sounds around you, let them filter in, that's fine. It's no disturbance. This is just the atmosphere that your body is in. I'd now like you to follow the way that you're breathing. I'd like you to concentrate on how it's going out and how you're breathing in. A lot of versions in mindfulness say you should emphasize on breathing out. I don't want you to emphasize on anything. Just naturally breathe the way that you are. Draw your attention to the physical sensation of breathing. Feel the air moving through your nose and mouth and the rising and falling of your tummy or even your chest. And it's from here that I'd like you to choose your focal point. So your focal point could be what you're looking at with the gaze, and it could also be just thinking of an area in the center of your body, like your chest. And do that for the next couple of breaths. Whilst you're concentrating on your breathing, I would like you to appreciate that your mind may wander to other places, and that's fine. There's no need to block or eliminate your thinking. When you get around to noticing your mind wandering, in a few seconds, in a minute, just gently return your attention to your breathing and to your focal point. At this stage, you might want to make an adjustment, such as moving your body, or maybe you've got an itch or you're scratching somewhere. With the intention, shift at a moment you choose. Don't dismiss these physical adjustments. allow space between what you experience and what you choose to do. Some people who've had a really busy day might find that their mind is wandering constantly, which is normal. Don't wrestle with it. Let those rush of thoughts come in. They're probably trying to find a space. And it's through that space that they may find an exit to. And this is the whole purpose of mindfulness. Breathe as you are. Concentrate on your breathing. And you don't need to react to those thoughts. Think about your focal point. Come back over and over again if you think your mind is wandering, and gently come back to your focal point. And the thoughts that you have, don't allow them to have any judgment or expectation. So we're going through the breaths, taking breaths in and breaths out in your own time. And when you're ready, I'd like you to gently lift your gaze and take a moment and notice any sounds in the environment. I'd also like you at this stage to notice how your body feels right now. Think about your thoughts and emotions. Pause for a moment. And then think about how you'd like to continue with the rest of your evening. I'm going to give you a couple of seconds to process those thoughts, and then we will continue. I hope you've benefited from that. It was a really attempt, rather, to help at facilitating some type of calm to a very busy day. And it was also, although not done in the full time frame that I would have liked to, however, the reason why I wanted to do this mindfulness exercise is because I really wanted to give you a taste of what mindfulness can do. And mindfulness can be practiced anywhere. So if you're washing the dishes, or if you are driving and you're parked up somewhere and it's been a stressful day for you, practice mindfulness. And I admit I need to be doing it a lot more often, but it is really helpful. And there's one app that is wonderful at mindfulness that I sometimes listen to when I go to sleep, and that's an app called Calm. And there is a little subscription to it on a yearly basis, but it's really worth it, because I do believe that now there are more and more people who are leading more and more hectic lives with the increase in population, etc. And becoming anxious can be quite commonplace in the lives and the responsibilities that we have. And alongside this mindfulness exercise, you can make it any way you want to. So if you feel that you need to recite a prayer or a dua, then you can do that. It's for you to own, and it's for you to respect what your mind and what your body needs and is comfortable with. So as long as you can do that and respect and acknowledge those feelings, then you're well on your way to being able to address some of the symptoms that may be associated with anxiety if you feel that it's interfering with your daily life. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about local services within the area. And we've got some really comments here, nice comments. Mr. Munir, I almost fell asleep sitting so relaxed. Thank you very much. I must say it definitely works. Thank you. I'm really glad that it worked for you. And we have a Mr. Rashid Hussein who is saying Salam, wa alaikum assalam. And I hope that you are benefiting from the program as well as the rest of you as well. So now, if you've got a pen and paper handy, what you can do is you can write down some of the services. So you have anxiety depression and stress services as well. And anxiety, depression and stress services here are run by Peterborough Mind, which is Cambridge and Peterborough. SL Mind is a self-referral service. They offer a range of 6 weeks skill-based workshops and support groups which aim to help people cope with the ups and downs in life. And I think, have we got somebody on the line? I have Brother Amr. Do we have somebody on the line? Okay, so let's take a call. And I'm just going to take a call. Assalamu alaikum. You're on Salaam Radio.
Hello.
Hello, assalamu alaikum. You're on
Walaikum
Salaam
salam.
Radio. Who's speaking, please?
This is Shazia.
Assalamu alaikum, Sister Shazia. Thank you very much for calling on the show. How are you today?
Yes, I'm okay, thank you.
And what would you like to say?
Just because I've been listening to your program, and I just wanted to share my story because, in the Asian community, there's a lot of taboos.
Yes.
And talking out is one of them. That it's a sign that you're not coping, and that means you must not be fit.
Sure.
And so my story sort of started a couple of years ago.
Okay.
When my father died.
I'm sorry to hear that.
And a year later, I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia.
Okay. I'm sorry to hear that, Sister.
And, so it started from there. And then I started to get anxiety, which meant I was off work for about 6 months.
Okay.
And it was just, silly little things that were building up. And I didn't recognize the symptoms then.
Okay.
So I'm one of these people that will Google everything.
Sure.
And sort of did a lot of research and started to talk to people at work.
Okay.
And sort of opened up a little bit, but I was always guarded.
Okay.
And then I sort of, like me being a confident driver for 25 years, I was scared to drive to different cities where, as before, I could sort of just do it with my eyes shut.
Sure.
So if I planned a journey, it would be festering until I actually sat in the car.
Bless you, sister.
And then I'd want my husband to be with me just in case the car broke down, just in case I had an accident, just in case. All these things that have never, alhamdulillah, never happened to me before. But it's just like these feelings were overtaking me.
Sure.
So it came to a point about a year later, and I just thought, this is ridiculous. Because it's controlling my life. I can't go out. Plus being a mom and a wife and a daughter and a sister and all the, balls that you have to juggle in the air.
Yeah.
Being an Asian woman and other women as well. All women, actually.
Yes.
I just thought, I just can't cope like this. I just cannot live my life like this.
Yeah.
So I started to do a bit of research.
Yeah.
And I just thought this is a rational fear. And, I'd go in the car and I think, oh, my God, what if I can't find a parking space?
Sure.
But, it happened to me a million times before and I've coped then.
Yes.
But slowly, I sort of headed on those fears.
Yes, okay.
So I thought, if I can't find a parking space, I'm going to have to go there and see what I can do.
Good.
So for myself, I started to do all these things. So if I felt a bit anxious, and I thought, that anxiousness is stopping me doing what I want to do.
Yes, sister.
And I thought, if I break down on the motorway, the RAC, the AA are there.
Yes, that's
I'm a membership of them. They're going to come and help me.
Yes.
I still can't change a tyre, but...
well, neither can I, sister. That's something you've shared. I'm sorry to interrupt you, sis, because we've got 3 minutes until the show ends. But I want to say how proud I am of you as a fellow sister. And I want to say well done to you. And you've shared your story with us, which is so precious. And I want you to say that one thing that highlights out and shines out to me is that you have such a powerful tool, which is your insight. And the reason why, alhamdulillah, I feel that you've recovered so well to be able to share your story is that your insight was the realization that you were suffering from something and you needed to do something about it. Given, yes, the taboo that Asian women can be subjected to. So myself and all of us here and all the listeners are so proud of you, and we want to say well done. And any of you listening out there, listening to Sister Shazia's story, please do learn from it. And Sister, thank you so much for calling, and I hope you can join us in future shows, and Allah bless you for calling today.
Inshallah, inshallah.
Thank you, Sister. Assalamu alaikum.
Allah Hafiz.
So that was Sister Shazia, who gave us a wonderful insight on what she had been suffering from. And it was so real, wasn't it? It really was. Everything that was happening to her, very physical symptoms, and how she broke out of what seemed to be a very vicious cycle. So thank you very much, Sister Shazia, for sharing that story with us. So as we're in the last 2 minutes of the show, what I will do is I will share, hopefully, to my own page and to the Body Health and Mind page on Facebook, if you like it, services that you can access within Peterborough. And we were talking a little bit about the Mind service, which is a self-referral service. You just need to Google them and write Peterborough. Then you've got the Good Life service, which focuses on individual strengths and skills, and it encourages peer support and community connectivity. And it's available to adults aged 18 upwards living in Cambridgeshire and Peterborough. Then you have Kooth, which is the 11 to 18-year-olds up to their 19th birthday. Again, it's a self-referral service. It's a confidential, anonymous online service for young people so that they can access mental health support as well. I'm going to go on because I don't want anybody to miss out on these valuable services. We have the Arts and Mind, Arts on Prescription, which is a series of friendly weekly art workshops for people experiencing depression, anxiety, and other mental health problems. We then have the Insight service, which is the self-referral service. And, you know, I think that we've only got 19 seconds, and I'd really like to thank you all for supporting this show today. This show is very important to myself. It was important to a lot of you. Inshallah, I'll be back with another show and hopefully with a learned guest. In the meantime, stay blessed, everyone, and Assalamu alaikum.
Stay tuned to Salaam Radio after this show.